As you look along the coast of China's Fujian province, you'll see hundreds of islands, silent, weather-beaten, each guarding its own forgotten story. But one island is different, a place of awe-inspiring temples, crumbling old villages, completely abandoned mansion, and the lingering remnants of the Cold War. This is Kinmen, geographically a part of Fujian, yet administered by Taiwan. Only a few kilometers from Xiamen city, it's a place where the past confronts the present, and it feels like an entire world away. Alright guys, this is it. Next stop, Kinmen Island. Well, first impressions of Kinmen Island, at least Jincheng, which is the main town where I'm staying, it feels an absolute world away from Xiamen, which was just a half-hour ferry from this bustling, modern mainland Chinese city to this, dusty, sleepy, little old, very rural place. It also feels kind of similar, but in a way also kind of different from Taiwan. I think I need to spend a little bit more time here before I can compare it to the main island of Taiwan too much, but at least I can say it's definitely very, very different to Xiamen. I mean, one of the big things is just look at the amount of temples absolutely everywhere. Let's actually take a look inside this one. We've got the gods of longevity and prosperity up on the top. And Guangdong, who I've seen a lot on my travels in Taiwan. So one of the things that I heard about Kinmen Island is because of its isolation, it's administered by Taiwan, but it's about, almost 100 kilometers or so away from Taiwan itself, and yet it's only a few kilometers off the coast of mainland China. And that meant that before the establishment of relations between the two sides, Kinmen Island was pretty much completely isolated, and the people here were living under martial law for a lot longer than Taiwan itself was. And so that isolation has meant obviously a lack of any real funding or development, but that has meant that there's been all of this really amazing, beautiful traditional architecture, really well preserved. It's probably, I would say, one of the best places to see traditional Fujian style architecture. At least that's what I've heard. As of filming this video, 2025, Kinmen and Mazu are currently the two only parts of Taiwan that mainland tourists are allowed to visit. And even then, only mainland tourists from the province of Fujian can get entry to come here. No one else from China can visit. And so, it's kind of sad, because you look at this island and clearly they've built a lot of the economy here on Chinese tourism, and there just really isn't any. And walking around, it's the weekend now and it's just incredibly quiet. You would have thought that even with people from Fujian being allowed over, that people would want to come over for the weekend and kind of see what the other side is like and how they're living. But no, seemingly it's very, very quiet, and most of the tourist shops I've walked past are looking all but empty and a lot closed. I am absolutely, completely lost in these old little alleyways. I have absolutely no idea where I am, where I'm going, and even which direction is back to the hotel or anything. But I have to say, sometimes getting lost is the best part of travel, and just the things you see. Check that out. Look at that behind me there. It's a completely abandoned mansion. Look at it. And then you've got, almost looks like an old barbecue or something down there. And it says, looks like this used to be a restaurant. Yeah, somebody's restaurant, but it's all looking very much. Oh, this one's not abandoned. It looks like there's still stuff going on in there. It looks pretty nice. I'm not really hungry now, but it does look pretty nice. So, regardless of your views on the politics of the whole situation, it's, at the end of the day, political decisions, it's always the people that suffer. And when a lot of locals have put, so much of their effort and hustle into, running tourism businesses to cater to Chinese tourists, and then all of a sudden no one's coming because the geopolitics have intensified, then they're the ones that suffer, and they've got to try and work out another way to make a living. And being such a remote little island, I don't really know what else people can really do to make a living here. Everything here is just abandoned, and there's this great big mansion that looks like they're renovating it, but it looks like they haven't done any work on it in a really long time. It just looks like they sort of started and then ran out of money and gave up or something. I don't know. It's all covered in scaffolding, but it doesn't look like they've done anything for a long time with it. Let's see what down here. And there's another abandoned house. And that's coffee and dressing up in cheapo. It's very bizarre here because you get all these like completely abandoned, derelict, run-down houses, and then you get these really quite posh looking, quite fancy places like right in amongst it all. There's another old looking house. And so my friend Dominic Lim, who is a Taizuchuan teacher in Singapore, he's actually he's Singaporean Chinese, and his ancestral home, his family originally come from Kinmen Island, and he still has extended family relatives that are still here on the island. He didn't tell me exactly where, but one thing that he told me was that here in Kinmen there's a real mix of architecture. You've got the real traditional old Fujian style architecture, because obviously geographically we're in Fujian province, albeit administered by Taiwan, but this is Fujian. But then you've also got a sort of more mixed kind of colonial architecture, basically the sort of Malaysian Singaporean style of architecture. And he told me the reason is because in the late 19th and early 20th century, a lot of people from Kinmen migrated to Malaysia, what's now Singapore, that area, made a lot of money, and then either they came back here or they sent money back here to their relatives living here, and so they decided to build houses for their families here in the style of those kind of Malaysian colonial style houses. So that's why you get some very different looking architecture in amongst the very traditional Chinese architecture. So I want to just interrupt this video briefly to talk to you guys about a product that I use quite a lot myself. Now, I think you know me well enough by now to know that I would not endorse just anything. If I'm going to promote something, it's only going to be something that I truly believe in and something that I genuinely do use myself. Some of you may know that I also work as a journalist and geopolitical analyst. And having this line of work has made me acutely aware of the biases that are present in a lot of mainstream media reporting on world events. And as such, it becomes harder to know what's really going on and to separate reality from the narratives that are being spun. And so one of the products that I use to get around that is something called Ground News. Ground News is an app and website that combines news from around the world in one place so you can compare coverage. For every news source, you can see if they have a political bias, how reliable their reporting is, and who owns them. You can verify your information and know where the news is coming from. With Ground News, you can see what the media is exaggerating, sensationalizing, over or under reporting. You can see who funds each publication, compare coverage, and think critically about the information you consume. Go to check.ground.news/monkeystealspeach to check it out now. If you subscribe for my link, you get 40% off the Vantage subscription.那些渔民应该很难分别，就是因为这么近嘛，哪里属于是台湾，哪里属于是大陆的。
对，但他们好像还是会有一个界限，还是会有那个海巡，就是在海边巡逻的人在那边控管，不能太靠近这样子。
那边是他们在找一个桥是吗？
对，但是不是这个方向，可能要离另外一边会比较近一点。他们的是主要是在他们新盖的那个机场那边，翔安机场那里。
从厦门机场就是直接到
是翔安机场，他们新的一个机场。
直接到金门。
但是我们这边没有在做，就是在动工在做桥。是好像只有传说他们那边有在施工。
Just off the main island of Kinmen lies Lieyu, sometimes called Little Kinmen. For decades, this small outpost stood on the very edge of the front line, bristling with bunkers, tunnels, and coastal defences. Today, the old military relics remain, scattered across the beaches and headlands. And from here, you can look across the water and see Xiamen's skyline rising so close, it almost feels like you could reach out and touch it. Well, I'm now on what's called Xiao Kinmen, or Little Kinmen, and as you can see, the beach is absolutely covered in these spikes to prevent an amphibious assault on the island. And just over there, that is Xiamen, that is mainland China. It's just absolutely mind-blowing, like, to be here and just see, what, 3 kilometers away or so, that Xiamen. And for many Taiwanese people, this is probably all they ever see of China. And we hear so much in the news, pretty much any time in the news, they're talking about Taiwan. They're talking about cross-strait tensions. They're talking about, you know, the potential for World War III. And yet you just stand here and it just really feels so peaceful. So peaceful. It's eerily peaceful, I would even say. But I mean, look, you know, there's a guy over there just fishing, going about his daily life. To him, seeing mainland China over there is, I suppose, just part of everyday life here.好，那个字从这里看得不清楚。哦，就在那边。一国两制，统治中国。厦门大学就是在。哦，看到了，那个是厦门大学，哇。这个就是国际会馆，这个一个船型。哦。哦，我就是从那里过来的。啊，就在那边。哇，好近，你几乎是可以游过去，我感觉。游过去。哈哈。你看那个水很急啊，上潮时候水很急。啊。有没有？看到了。哇。You just think it was, what, only a few decades ago that they were actually soldiers stationed, sitting in here and watching and waiting to see if anything was coming over from there. And they did. This island was shelled for, I believe, a couple of decades, constantly. Bombed and shelled by the People's Liberation Army in the hope that they would be able to take Kinmen back. But they were unsuccessful, and the island has kind of continued to exist in limbo since. We can actually go into one of the little forts here. Can you imagine what it would have been like sitting in here and just watching and waiting? Can you imagine what it would have been like decades ago, just sitting in here all day, watching the other side and waiting? It's so surreal. And I'm guessing most of these tourists, I'm assuming, are probably from mainland Taiwan, if you could call it that, from Taiwan itself, coming over here to see, you know, for many of them, if they've never been to over there, it's maybe the only view they would ever get of it. I said in a video a while back in Shaoxing, I said that if you want to, you know, rather than outright censoring something, if you want to kind of lessen the impact of it, just commodify it. And you can see here, I mean, they've got this view of mainland China, this view of Xiamen, but they've just put a couple of cute little mascot things up there and a couple of like a heart that you can sit in and pose for selfies. And I think that, you know, that sort of kind of cutification of such a geopolitically tense issue is perhaps the best way to deal with it. This tunnel's getting smaller and smaller and I can't even stand up. How deep these stairs are. Oh, and we're out. I was just looking through the binoculars up there, and you can get a pretty good view of Xiamen from there. Again, the propaganda sign that the fisherman pointed out to me earlier, the 一国两制统一中国, was right over there. And then beneath it you can just see a whole bunch of people just hanging out on the beach, swimming, you know, just enjoying their weekend. And it's, you know, regardless of whatever your political opinions are, it's quite a strange feeling to stand here, you know, and just see how divided, like, this side from that side actually is still. And people are coming here to, you know, go up at the other side through these binoculars, and the other side they've got their own binoculars and their own sort of lookout points where they're gawping over here. You know, both sides kind of wondering what's going on in each other's lives. And the irony is that lives are very similar. I mean, Taiwan, Kinmen, Fujian, Xiamen, they even speak the same dialect. They speak Minnan, southern Hokkien. It's, you know, you put someone from here and someone from there next to each other. I mean, other than like probably the way they dress, their mannerisms, but, you know, it can be quite hard to tell them apart. At the end of the day, everyone's just people going about their daily life, you know, trying to get by, trying to earn enough money to feed the family, making sure the kids go to school, coming home after a hard day's work and having a beer. I mean, you know, people are just people, regardless of political ideology or affiliation. It's also quite a strange feeling for me, actually. I didn't really think it would be until I was here. But it's quite a strange feeling knowing that I've lived so much of my life over there. 18 years, you know, my entire adult life over on that side. And all of these defences are essentially built with that side as the enemy. This gigantic loudspeaker used to broadcast propaganda over to communist China decades ago. It ceased operations now. Apparently from time to time it still plays it at a quieter volume for tourists, but I'm not sure if we're going to get to hear it or not. But it would play a message broadcast from a famous Taiwanese singer, Teresa Tang, Deng Lijun, who, because a lot of Chinese are very big fans of Deng Lijun, and you know, many of her songs are really popular with middle-aged Chinese people. So this was obviously a perfect piece of propaganda to have, you know, for Taiwan to have somebody who many Chinese are familiar with and you know, admire and respect, to basically tell them to defect and come over to this side.
大陆同胞们，你们好，我是邓丽，我现在来到金门的广播站，大陆沿海的同胞们广播。我今天要跟大家说的是，我很高兴的能够站在自由祖国的第一城县金门，我感觉到非常的快乐，非常的幸福。我希望在大陆的同胞也可以跟我享受到一样的民主跟自由。唯有在自由民主富庶的生活环境下，才能拥有实现个人理想的机会，也唯有全体青年都能自由发挥聪明才智，国家的未来才会有充满光明和希望。我希望很快的能够再回到金门，跟金门的弟兄们见面，当然还有跟大陆沿海的同胞们通话。在这里呢，祝大家身体健康，民主万岁！谢谢。
Well, this is it. I am crossing the bamboo curtain once again and heading back to Xiamen. Well, I am now back and I have a few hours to kill before my flight back to Shanghai. So I'm gonna go and try and find that beach that I was looking at from the Kinmen side that has the big propaganda board on it, and see if I can get some views of Kinmen from this side. Immigration, customs, security, all cleared. I'm now back in Xiamen properly. Let us go and find some spots to try and gawp at Kinmen for a couple of hours. Well, this is the sign, the one country, two systems unite China, that we were looking at yesterday from over there. And now we are here. It's not actually on the beach, it's across the road behind it. And an interesting thing is, when I was in Kinmen yesterday over there, there was binoculars that you could use for free to look over here at Xiamen. But here, in communist China, as opposed to the capitalist one, you have to pay to use the binoculars. There's just a bunch of people that have come here and set up their own binoculars there that you can pay, and they'll show you some of the sights on Kinmen. Anyway, it is a very clear view. I'll flip the camera around so you can see. So that's Kinmen over there. Back over there, the guys that were selling the binoculars that you could look through were kind of giving a little bit of an explanation to a young couple that had paid him to use the binoculars. And, you know, feelings were quite strong. He was pointing out some of the propaganda signs that the Nationalist Party had put up over along on you know, various rocks that are under Taiwan's administration. And he was saying, you know, is basically just saying why these propaganda slogans are kind of meaningless and useless. And he was saying the only way to unite China is through the communist system. And then he pointed to a statue of Chiang Kai-shek. I don't know exactly where that was because I didn't see one when I was over there. But he pointed to that, and then he said that this is where Chiang Kai-shek left mainland China in 1949. And then apparently, according to this guy, he spent the rest of his life crying right up until he died. And he said that this sea here is all the tears of Chiang Kai-shek because he lost China. So it's kind of interesting. This beach also is incredibly peaceful, incredibly calm. Obviously, there's some quite strong emotions from the few people that are over there, you know, with the binoculars. And then I saw some old people, like retired old men that were waving Chinese flags, and I didn't want to film them because I didn't want to kind of get myself in any trouble. But yeah, you know, other than the high emotions, it generally is quite peaceful here. I mean, over there yesterday was incredibly peaceful. As you saw, I was almost the only person on that entire beach looking back over here. And now, yeah, there's quite a few people around. It's not a secluded beach, but it is a pretty peaceful one. And so I'm going to end this here, just about 3 kilometers from where I was yesterday, but an absolute world apart. I mean, they speak the same dialect, they share the same history, they worship the same gods, but, you know, 70, 80 years, 1949, almost 80 years of separation, and These two sides have gone down very, very different paths. And so I apologise if with this video you were hoping for some big, bold political statement. Obviously, I live here in China. There are, certain things that cannot be said. But instead, it just, gives me a profound sense of, can't we just live in peace, It sounds kind of cliche, but there's so many wars, conflicts, not just country to country, not just civil wars, not just cold wars, but, even just within the US, within the UK, we're becoming more and more polarized, more and more divided. And is there really any need for it? Can we not just learn to get along, to have our differences, but to accept those differences? We can all go about our own way of life, but can we not just civilly agree to disagree sometimes?